Hey, I think we're live. Yes, we are. This was super last minute. I'm actually checking to see how this is going to work out. So, what you can do, ask your questions. Ask your questions in the comments. Ask your questions here. And I am happy to answer. I see we have some people coming on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So what I'd like to do, if you have any questions on singing, how the voice works, if you're a voice teacher, if you need any suggestions or help with a student, let me know. Let me know. Comments about my questions about my reactions, if you have those, jump in. Otherwise, it's just going to be me staring at you. So let me just see. So I know that you have questions. I've watched, okay, so applying voice exercises into a song. Fantastic question. When you're doing voice exercises, this is what's tricky about them. Is voice exercises are constructed to give you the best chance of finding success and finding balance. So let's say that I'm straining on a note and I've got to sing this note on the word I. And I'm feeling I, but I know if I use an exercise like one, ooh, I can find that kind of easy. One, I. So you go ahead and substitute problem words in a song. Use an exercise that works well for you. As you go through vocal exercises, you're going to have ones that work well for you. It's not necessarily going to be the same as for another singer. Make note of those. These are your little crowbar exercises. When you find exercises that help you lock into balance, these are gold. Use these all the time. Use these to sneak into other problem exercises, other problem vowels, so that if one works for you, but let's say you have trouble on E. So E's tend to want to flip. You one, wee. Oh, that helped me find it. The space and the balance of your friendly exercise will help you sneak into others. Replace sections of the song with your favorite exercise. Do them on the melody. Scarlett, would you say that singing is as much a mental ability as a physical ability? I was just covering this topic. I have a voice teacher academy called Contemporary Voice Teacher Academy, CVTA. And I had a live meeting with members, and I was talking about mindset. And absolutely, I was recommending that they watch the new Netflix, or actually a new season just dropped on Netflix. It's called Breakpoint, and it's about elite tennis players. It's a documentary. And it's fascinating to see at that level, everything is the mind. They've all worked their bodies into fantastic shape. They've done the drills. They know how to play. But it's incredible how their results vary based on very few people. It's injuries or exhaustion. It's mind. So yes, it's getting your mind really clear. And also, as you're working your voice, finding imagery that works for you, finding thoughts that work for you. When you have a problem note, just stop and allow yourself to mentally sing that note and sing it really well. And notice, what am I doing? What am I feeling? And then do everything but make sound. Do adjust your jaws, feel yourself, adjust everything, and notice, am I feeling tension? Are there ways I could do this better? And sing the note. and then analyze again. A lot of this and a lot of learning to sing is done by you. It's not done by the voice teacher. I have people who will argue that you don't need voice lessons. That's fine. There are naturally talented singers. But for us mere mortals who have to work our voice, most of the work is done with yourself and with your mindset. And your teacher is just a guide to help show you the right way. Listening in the UK. Yeah, the quality of singing is related to the quality of thought. Yes, I say that often. So fascia is, I'm really fascinated with this. I got turned on to the whole fascia thing by Jeremy Ryan Mossman, who's just a brilliant voice teacher. Your body is not just bone and muscle and the organs, etc., but there is this netting that weaves its way through everything, and it's kind of what holds you together. And think of fascia as your internal skin, right? Where I can say this is the skin of my cheek, but this skin, it doesn't end. The skin itself goes all the way down to my toes, and such it is with fascia. And if you have tension in one part of your body, it can work its way through the fascia all the way up to here. And you can feel the fascia at work. Fascia can be very stiff or it can be very fluid. Do this for me. I want you to take your palm and just strike it with your fingers, and you'll feel that that's very, very solid, that resistance. Now go ahead and press in really gently and keep pressing and keep pressing, and you'll feel you can get deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is the fascia giving way and becoming more fluid. And this is very, very important when you're singing, is to keep this active, right? We don't want to be over relaxed when we sing. We want to be active, but we don't want to be stiff and tense. So it's learning about fascia and also learning about your body, learning about how your voice works. It's not just a mental exercise. It actually helps with body mapping. It helps with this connection from the mind to the voice. I mean, we don't have frets. We don't have keys. We have to connect the brain to this instrument that we don't see. We don't really have conscious direct control of. And so working this understanding and this mapping is really, really important. That's why I believe that learning about the instrument, learning about voice science is beneficial. Yeah, you can't learn to sing from a book. You can be a total science nerd and not know how to sing. But if you are a serious singer, if you start to explore how the voice really works, it's going to help you connect. It's going to help clear up the fuzziness that's here. Let me see. Jeremy's listening from New York City. I was actually born in Brooklyn. Lived there till I was about 5. So I don't know if that makes me a true New Yorker. Certainly not anymore, but I am native. True story, my parents, who were Scottish immigrants, owned a bar in Brooklyn that's still there. I don't know what it's called now. It's way more hipster than when my parents had it. But when I was a kid, I was 3 and 4 years old, back behind the bar pulling beers for people. So I think the laws may have changed. What can I do? Aaron, hello. What can I do for a student that consistently sings out of tune? What kind of ear training exercises or activities will help? Yeah, this is really interesting. And this really gets back to this idea of connecting the mind to the instrument. And what we have to do when we sing is we have to think these abstract thoughts of pitch and somehow make these little muscles we don't have awareness of make precise adjustments so that when we sing, we're on the right pitch. I mean, that's fascinating that anybody's able to do that. But what they need to do is strengthen this connection. They need to hear the pitch stronger in their mind. So what I have students do is have them go to a fixed instrument. A piano is usually great. They don't have to know how to play piano. They can use a virtual keyboard online. Go to a note that is comfortable for them. Don't try and do it on high notes. Have them play the note and then really hear it in their mind. And have them hear it in their mind as loud as they can make it. Really, really strong. And then, match the pitch. And if they take the time to do that, you'll notice that their pitch accuracy will almost always improve. And if they just spend a few weeks doing this, just a few minutes a day, maybe a couple of times a day, it's rather than long sessions, this is better to just break it up. The time it takes for them to hear the note, create it in their mind, and then sing it is going to get shorter and shorter and shorter. And ultimately, this creation of the pitch in the mind will connect to here. I can't do raindrop. Nice. I can't do goes well on a high note, but when I have to sing like in what, on the same high note, I have, you can do the goes well, but when you have to sing on what on the same note, you have trouble. The sound and tone quality is much worse on an than on go. What can I do to start practicing notes using So that's it. So the O vowel is obviously friendly for you. And the G, that's interesting that the G works well for you up high. That's very encouraging. I have to be careful giving people a hard G like go, because while it's very helpful to help with resistance, go, 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 go. If somebody's breathy, whoa, 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 a little go, 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 go can help them get that chord closure. It's added resistance, but people can drive too hard on that G. And very often on high notes, I'll give up the G. So that's fascinating that it works for you up there. That's a good thing. What I would do is I would, rather than try the of what, I would try whoa. Take away the G and see if it still works. So as I go higher, if I'm finding success with go, 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 I can try whoa, 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 and then move from the whoa, 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 wah, 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 move from the whoa to the wah, and see if that helps sneak you in. There's something about the O vowel, and watch that watch that the wah doesn't want to wah. All right, because then what'll happen then is the resonances of the vocal tract will start to try and reach too high. Wah, wah. So be careful of that. Another really helpful idea when you're singing higher is, and this is a little advanced in the acoustics, but to understand that vowels are actually a combination of resonances. It's not just a single resonance. It's not just one sound. And think of underneath that as having a bit of in the throat. This isn't entirely scientifically accurate, but it can work. Think in the throat, in the mouth. Wah, wah, and that can help you get there. I have a course for vocal instructors as well. Can I talk about what that entails? Jeremy, yes. So the course I have is Contemporary Voice Teacher Academy. There is currently a basic level, and that is primarily self-study. I am about to launch the advanced level probably next month, and that is going to be more live calls, me teaching somebody, getting feedback, me watching the teachers work with voices, really going into how to work with different types of voices, how to listen and hear for imbalances, how to assess the voice, best tools to use, etc. But if you just go to my website, johnhenny.com, you can look up in the top, I don't have my site in front of me, but there's a tab for teachers. So just get the teachers tab. Let me get some water here. These are great questions. I've also got my handy nebulizer going. I recommend these highly. Although it looks a little funny when you're puffing on one of these, you may have to explain yourself. But what this is saline solution. It's going into this nebulizer, and it's actually the droplets contain the saline within them. So it's not like putting it into a humidifier. That wouldn't carry the saline. This is shown to stick better on the vocal folds. It's actually quite helpful. Let me see. CQ, my vocal teacher, often talks about adjusting pressure to transition. I find this term confusing, and I don't know how to do it without forcing or going louder. So in the transition, I'm going to assume that this is where you are transitioning from your lower register to your upper register, chest voice to head voice, going into your mix. I know there's all these different terms that we use to describe the voice. But what will happen is we have to hand over in this area. We're handing over from the TA muscles, the thyroid muscles that make up the bulk of the vocal folds, and they make the vocal folds shorter and fatter. They're the muscles that are dominant in speaking and in chest voice. And we're giving over to the cricothyroid muscle, which is going to pull and stretch the vocal folds, and they get thinner and they have less contact. And also in terms of resonance, you're having this lift, and you're going from one resonance being dominant to another resonance. And these all create feelings of instability. And when we experience this instability, we will tend to squeeze, right? The human body, when we're not sure, we tense. And so in this tension, you're probably overpressing your vocal folds, which is creating too much subglottal, right? The opening in the vocal folds is called the glottis. So below the opening of the vocal folds, the folds are closed and you're feeling this excess pressure. That excess pressure that your teacher is talking about is coming from likely your body wanting to squeeze in reaction to this feeling of instability. So what I would do is get on little edgy sounds. By edgy, it's kind of like a gate creaking. And what you can feel on just a little, like K-A-Y. That nasty little exaggeration, bratty nasty, it's going to allow you to hold fold closure while allowing the folds to thin and lengthen without needing to press. It reduces the skill level necessary. It reduces the elements we need to balance. So they're kind of minimized. So it becomes very easy. Once that's working, then you can put a little more on it. You can go to maybe something like gug, but still keep that little cry. Gug, 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 gug. When that's feeling good, then drop a little to gug, 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 gug. And you can try it a little louder, gug, 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 gug. And you start to build into it, you know, and then maybe trying things like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Once you start to be able to hold there without that need to squeeze, that subglottal pressure will drop. And without going too deep into it, there is something called phonation threshold pressure, PTP. And this PTP is really handy to keep in mind. What PTP means is the amount of pressure, phonation threshold pressure. How much pressure does it take to begin to phonate? And if that number is really high, that's not good. That means we've got so much squeezing that it takes a lot of pressure. And you can feel it with your lips, like buzz your lips if you can. Now really squeeze your lips hard. that took so much more pressure for me to get those lips to buzz. And so when you reduce that phonation threshold pressure, that's the pressure your voice teacher is talking about. Annette, I loved your belt course. Thank you, Annette. The resonance and undervowel thing has unlocked loads of tone. I also informed my own vocal coach. He welcomed the information and used it. That's fantastic. I get that concept of the undervowel and the overvowel I get from Ken Bozeman, who's just brilliant. I love his stuff. His books, I highly recommend. They're not a quick read. You might have to take your time with them. If this stuff really interests you, I do have a science course, The New Science of Singing. I just revamped the whole thing. You could check it out at newscienceofsinging.com if you really want to understand all this voice stuff. But yeah, essentially, I have this joke that I'm going to write a book called The Secret of Singing. And the book's going to have one page. And on that page is a single word. And the word is And what I mean by that, if you kind of hold under your voice as you sing higher, that's going to stabilize that lower resonance. Most vocal issues are this lower resonance wanting to follow the pitch. And it hits a wall. And physically, the way that we raise this resonance, it has two levers. We can begin to tense at the throat and spread the lips. And if you look at every singer who's struggling, they're doing that on high notes. So if you can stabilize the throat, and for me, the best way to control your larynx, don't think about pulling your larynx up and down, right? There is no one single position for the larynx. It's not about a high larynx or a low larynx. It's about a tuned larynx. But I suggest you control it with a feeling of that is going to stabilize everything. E, ah. But yeah, I go into that into my my belt course. So, and yeah, I also have a teaching belt singing course as well that goes more into the details, but you can find all that at my website. Let me see. BMAV007. Love your content. Thank you. I have a couple of performances coming up. Wonder how much breath I should be behind my voice as I sing. Should I be singing? How much breath should be behind my voice as I sing? Or should I be singing closer to how I speak? Thank you. All right. There's no single answer for that. So I'll share with you. Years ago, I tried to get good at poker. And I became a really, really stunningly average break-even player, which meant I wasn't terrible, but I was okay. But not great. I certainly wouldn't go up against pros. But I had a poker coach, and I would ask him questions about, hey, I've got this hand, the board's showing this, what should I do? And he'd always say, it depends. And I hated that answer, but there's so much truth in it. So it depends. Your breath and your vocal folds are always doing this dance. Your breath is the fuel. And your vocal folds' job is to turn this breath, this air that's just flowing, into alternating high and low pressure. So rather than just air molecules that are moving, but relatively stable in their relationship to each other, what the vocal cords are going to do is they're going to close over this breath. And suddenly you've created a vacuum over the vocal cords. And so now this wave of air is moving and it's leaving a vacuum of diminishing pressure in its wake. And so when it reaches the lips, now this tube during the closed phase of the vocal cords is negative pressure compared to atmospheric pressure. So the atmospheric pressure will rush in to fill the void. Of course, nature always overswings. And so what it does is it comes in, is then it overcompresses, and then it has to expand the other way. So all you're doing is you're creating the airflow for your vocal cords to chop this up. The secret to this whole thing, where your magic is, where your power is in the vocal tract, is in tuning the vocal tract for the maximum amount of energy and or efficiency. And so you should always feel that you have a nice flow of air. You shouldn't feel that you're working too hard, that your folds are over closing. Like if you feel your folds are like squeezing, that might be too much muscle, or it might be that you're not moving enough air. In terms of breath, there are a couple of different schools, right? The one thing we don't want to do is this clavicular breathing. I can't even say that word, can't speak. Anyway, we don't want to be moving our sternum up and down. This is open, this is available. You drop the diaphragm, you feel the breath drop all the way down into the belly. People talk about the pelvic floor, yeah? Now what I want you to do is place your hand 2 inches below your belly button and say, and feel that little kick. That kick, that muscle, now focus on that muscle and hiss a couple of times. Use that muscle kicking out to move the air. Singers will talk about that as being support, and that is one way to breathe, is this expansion of the belly. However, you can also bring the belly in, and you pull in from that area, right? Keeping the chest and everything open. What you can do is you can press out on the more legato passages, normal singing, but when you've really got to belch something and you need some energy, you pull in, so that you're going to have different amounts of breath depending on the resistance and the intensity that you need. Tyler, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Let me see. It's John H. Interesting. Like your name. Let me see, John H. Late to the meeting. How do you reduce vocal cord pressure, please? So vocal cord pressure, this is something that you're going to work on all of your singing life. The human body is going to tend to want to overexert. One thing that we don't do well as human beings is properly estimate what it's going to take to do a task, especially high-level tasks. If you have somebody go to a tennis court for the very first time and hit a tennis ball, it's not that they're not going to hit the ball far enough, assuming it goes over the net. They're going to hit it too far. When someone picks up a guitar for the first time, what are they going to do? They may not press the strings down hard enough, but usually they overpress, right? And their fingers hurt and they're all tense. So what you want to do is you want to start developing a feel for the touch. When someone's learning guitar, and especially bass, to get that feel, what you'll do is you'll place your finger on the string, and it's kind of clunking, and then you press just enough. There it is. Now it's making a sound. That's all the pressure I need. There it is. And I start to just develop that feel, so I'm not clanging and grasping at it. You can do little edgy exercises. Feel that little vocal creak. And this is something I have, and I've talked about this, but and they don't know why, but I have developed a vocal tremor, and it's something that can happen. It's called benign essential vocal tremor, and there's a misfiring from the brain to my vocal cords, and my voice began to quiver. And so I've been doing a lot of voice therapy, and a lot of the therapy that I'm doing are these little edges, just feeling my voice, just little because my body started to try and stop the tremor. It started to overpress and overcompress. So when I was diagnosed with this, I'll tell you, for about 15 minutes, I was despondent. And then I just grabbed myself and said, no, you know what? This is a gift from the vocal gods. This is now my challenge. And it's been an enlightening journey. And it's really made me learn a lot more about the voice and connect with my voice. But just finding that. And then as you begin to just those little edges, you can just Gee, 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 gee. Then you add a little more. Wee, 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 wee. Don't try and belt. Just start to get that touch, get that resistance, get that feel. Let me see. Second question, not a problem. I have a really easy time with singing more classical style music and a harder time with pop, making pop sound good. Wondering if you had any thoughts. So look, the fact that you can sing classical music well, and this is something that comes up, and I've got a podcast coming up, my Intelligent Vocalist podcast, that I recently recorded, and I think I rant on 3 topics. And one of the topics was us wanting to throw out older knowledge. And I think that's a mistake. And when we're learning to sing pop, and when people have learned to sing classical and then they turn to pop, they almost want to turn against their previous training. And I say that that's a mistake because you've learned so much from that. And just your support and your posture and your legato and your musicality and your diction. But when singing pop, there are going to be some stylistic differences. One of them is diction. In classical music, right, the words are caressed and the ability to understand is so very, very important. In pop music, consonants and words, they're much more rhythmic, and it's not so much about being understood, right? So let's say if I was going to do something classically, my name is John. If it's more pop, my name is John, right? And in pop, you put a little more emphasis at the beginning of the word, and you pop it a little bit, and then you don't, the ends of the words just get slightly lazy. They're still there, but you want to watch that it doesn't sound too formal. Also, it may be a little brighter. You know, sometimes in classical, we really start to get this lower larynx position. And in pop, it may need to be a little more here, just slightly higher, depending on the style and what it is that you're doing. There's more variance in pop. There's more, I'm not saying that originality is not accepted in classical music, but you have to work within the guidelines of the art form. There's a certain aesthetic. Whereas in pop, man, it's all over the place. And unless you're in a cover band, where you have to be a little more faithful, you really have so much to play with. So also learning to sing pop is playing with more extremes of your voice and finding more colors and experimenting and just having fun. Annette, you had to do a presentation this week. I remember to always be singing. If I didn't fear my squeaky lady voice, I use tone and tempo for effect like you do. You sound great tonight as always. Oh, well, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Yeah, I actually have, and I think this is important for singers. When you are speaking, I have worked with singers. I remember somebody came to me, this young tenor, huge voice, and he was actually starting to sing with a rather large opera company. He wasn't starring in roles, but he was being brought on and made part of the chorus and being given small roles. I mean, just fantastic. But I remember when he walked in, he said, my voice is always tired a lot. Like, hey, you can't talk like that. You have to make sure that you're using your voice in a musical, healthy way all of the time. And I've got a book I'm looking at publishing it next month called The Compelling Speaker, but I think it's good for singers to be really, really aware of their speaking voices and being really, really careful. Let me see. Oh, thank you, Mr. 007. Wonderful answer. Thank you very much. Dizzy Lizzy. Sometimes you add too much vibrato to everything or you don't add enough. Any advice on how to find the right balance of vibrato and straight tones? So, again, this depends, yeah? And usually in pop, what you're going to have, depending on the style, it's usually going to be more straight tone to vibrato at the end. And what you can do is you can just practice holding straight tones. Although I was speaking for my podcast with a wonderful voice teacher and researcher, John Nix, who is really looking at vibrato. And straight tone is actually an illusion. We hear it as a straight tone, but we never produce a consistently straight tone. Even little fluctuations in the body, right? The body has natural tremors. Even your heartbeat is creating little tiny oscillations in the voice and in the body. But yes, we do hear these as straight tones. I would try moving from straight tone to vibrato, back to straight tone, to vibrato, back to straight tone. Pay attention to where you are in your range, where you feel like maybe your vibrato is too much. I found in my voice, so when I was first dealing with this vocal tremor, speaking of vibrato, although tremor is not really a vibrato, it's more of an oscillation. But anyway, I felt myself tensing. And so I began to go, no, I've got to relax. And I started to over-relax my voice. And when you over-relax your voice, your vibrato may get a little slow. So you need to keep everything really kind of energized. And you want this feeling in your voice. Like Pavarotti talked about singing as like an animal, going to bite. Yeah, and you've got your energy, and allow the body to move. You know, if you're feeling the vibrato go a little funny, raise your arms, give yourself a few woo, hey, you know, and you can do things like nee, 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 na, 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 and just get the vibrato going. And you can use this as a little cue and get your body excited, get your nervous system going. And that can be really helpful to find vibrato. Let me see. How do you hold a long note and then do vibrato at the end of it? I don't know how to do vibrato. Yeah. It's tricky. Generally speaking, in broad strokes, vibrato occurs when the voice is really balanced. You've got this nice acoustic balance going. You've also got this nice balance of air and resistance at the folds. So there's no excess tension, and we get this nice little oscillation. We still don't know exactly what vibrato is, but basically a straight tone is you're going to add a little bit of tension to the note, just a little bit. And what you can do when you want a straight tone is open the vowel a little bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you listen to Sutton Foster singing Gimme Gimme from Thoroughly Modern Millie, at the end of that song, she holds a sustain on this thing called Love. You can find this on YouTube or Apple Music, Spotify. But listen to it. And when she's sustaining, she holds a straight tone. But then when the orchestra hits the fermata, she instantly goes into vibrato on command, right as the orchestra does that for effect. How does she do that? Listen to her vowel. When she's straight tone, she's singing la, and then when she goes for the vibrato, she instantly pulls the la to She narrows the vowel, which removes a little bit of the pull and puts her slightly more balanced. Not that the straight tone's wrong, right? It's just she's creatively using a little bit of tension, a little bit of imbalance. And then when she goes to the more narrow vowel, the vibrato kicks in instantly. So that can be a way to do it as well. Yeah, so speaking, you have to be very, very careful. If watch yourself in noisy environments. As a singer, you need to be very, very careful with your voice. You need to watch yourself. And you don't really have the luxury of shouting in loud environments because you're going to pay the price for it. Now, what I want you to do is find your optimal speaking pitch. And the way to do that is go like you're agreeing with something. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And feel that inflection up. Mm-hmm, hmm. And then glide that up and down till you really feel it resonate here, what they call the mask. Mm-hmm, hmm. There it is for me. Now from that place, say something enthusiastic. Yes, that's right. All right, fantastic. Keep your voice there. That's your baseline. What happens is we'll let our voice go down here, and there's a debate on vocal fry. Vocal fry in this day and time is kind of a generational thing, and younger people speak with more vocal fry. It's not that vocal fry in and of itself is unhealthy. However, vocal fry, when you talk down there, it doesn't have a lot of acoustic energy. So if you are trying to be heard when you're in fry, you're going to start to squeeze. And when you start to squeeze, that's where the problem starts. So that's where I want people to just watch it from fry. I don't want to be the old man scolding people for talking in fry. That's not it. It's when you're in fry, you should be aware and you need to watch it because in louder situations, fry becomes acoustically quite inefficient. So that's when you need to be careful. So, hey everyone, these are a bunch of great questions. I want to thank everybody for attending. Got a few more minutes. Any other questions? Yeah, I have to do a straight tone from vibrato on the word mine. Do I have suggestions for that? So, mine is a diphthong. Mine. So that is where you have the straight tone. And because we don't want to go mine, we want to go mine. It's not that you can't do the other way, but in general, unless there's artistic reasons for it, stay on the first part of the vowel. You might want to do that mine a little more. Mine. Sorry, my voice is a little dry, but that hold that that straight tone. Mine. So I'm going mine. And so I can go back and forth between the straight tone and the vibrato. That for me is helpful. So and you can really feel that going back and forth. But hey, if this stuff is of interest to you, I do have my voice school, voiceschool.com, and you can try it for 14 days for free. I've got courses in there. I've got bell courses. I've also we have live coaching calls. I do them as well. I will get on and work with your voice in a live environment. And also we have vocal check-ins where you can get a one-on-one check-in with one of my voice experts anytime you're stuck. But just go check that out. So very, very good. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I think I'll start doing these on the regular if you like these. If you do, just let me know. Leave it in the comments. Yeah, this Q&A was fun. So perhaps I shall do more. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.